Welcome back to our Let's Build World Painter tutorial type-esque thingy that I haven't decided on what to call, so I don't know what to intro for the video. Last episode we were just basically going over the three land masses that we have: our plateau, our mainland with the swamp and mountain terrain, and our Dwarven Fortress to be island, which is entirely composed of mountains except for one little landing area for boats. So in this episode, I'm going to be kind of customizing the terrain to be stuff other than just grass because that's boring, and also making uh, customizing everything a little bit more. So we'll be getting some beaches down, we'll be putting some generic biomes down, and we'll also be fixing this mountain biome, mountain range right here because I don't like how it looks. And I think that's where we're going to start off. So we're going to select our favorite mountain tool, which for me is this brush, and we're going to rotate it around until we find something that approximates the same as this. And then we're just going to do our usual little mountain left clicks. Circular little, oh, okay, well, you see what this is right here, that flat area? That is the top of the world. We have successfully reached the top of the world, so that will look terrible if I leave it like that. So I'm just going to not do that. I'm going to undo it. And then I'm also going to kind of shrink the mountain tool down. And oh, the top of the world is right there again. I think the top of the world is right there as well. Yeah, it is. Ah, crap. Alright. So I want to raise this up. Oh my god, I keep hitting the top of the world. You know, for most people that probably wouldn't be an issue, but whatever. Alright, I want to kind of make a mountain right here again as well. Just kind of extend the mountain range a little bit. As it stands right now, it's a little too flat for me. I just don't like how it looks. So, alright, there we go. We have our new mountain pass, and I'm actually going to also kind of change right here. I'm actually going to shrink it. I'm going to try and lower the pass so that it's a little bit more possible for people to walk through. So I'm just kind of doing single right clicks to lower it down. Um, Not sure how that's going to actually look. Let's check in the 3D if we go all the way over. So, alright, let's right click a little bit there. That's created a little bit of water. Still not great, so I think I'm going to actually use the flatten tool to kind of make it a little bit more of a wide pass. So yeah, alright, there we go. That looks decent. Alright, very minute changes there. Now, as for the kind of land going around the side of this big island, I don't particularly like how it looks right now. So I'm going to choose a wide brush that has a uh, pretty rather level height map. So I'm going to choose this last one, which is apparently called Weird, which works because I want the map to appear weird. So I'm gonna blow up the size a little bit and then just use the raise tool instead of the flatten tool because I'm a professional. And just kind of, yeah, go around and just left click. Sometimes I'm holding it. I think it'll actually look better if I use the flatten tool. Yeah, that does look a lot better if I just use the flatten tool and kind of go around the edges. The black lines are changes in, I believe, 10, height of 10 blocks. So that's why, like, I don't like seeing how the black lines are all really close together. That indicates a significant height change in a relatively small um, uh, distance. So it'd be a very steep hill, in other words. So that's basically what I'm trying to remedy right now by going around and expanding the coasts. I'm just going around, flattening it, and then dragging out these two black lines, the one here and the one here, trying to get a little bit of separation between the two so that we don't have basically a coast, a hill, and then our landmass. I want kind of a slowly rising hill, at least for the area where the beach is, which I'm going to have kind of taper off so that we have a beach area from down here all the way around to up here, and even a little bit higher than that up here. Now, going back here, we can see the black lines are all rather close together, so that means a steep hill. So, while not necessarily a cliff, actually, yeah, a cliff. I want it to be a cliff, I've decided. So I'm going to use the flatten tool at the utmost, the highest area, and pull it out towards the water to create basically beach cliffs, you know? It's going to be very straight up as you're sailing around the ocean. It's going to be kind of very White Cliffs of I don't know what it's called. White Cliffs of Cornwall, I want to say, but it's this area in Britain where there are these white clay cliffs just rising directly out of the sea. I want it to be very similar to that, although not in color. Right here, I want another beach area, kind of connecting the swamp and the mainland. So I'm going to be pulling the height map out a little bit, expanding it, as well as just generally kind of making this a little bit more of a flat area. As it stands, it's a little too diverse. I don't like how it looks. So I'm just kind of very specifically clicking one at a time instead of holding down my left mouse button like I usually do. Alright, so that's the mainland, basically its terrain done. So now moving over to the Elven Isle, I've decided to call it. By the way, if you guys want any portion of this map named after your username or you just have an interesting name you'd like me to use, feel free to leave it in the comments and point out what area you'd like. If you'd like one of the mountains to be called Mount, I don't know, personally my name's Sam, so if you want it to be called Mount Samuel or something, feel free, leave it in the comments, let me know, and I'm going to definitely incorporate that in. Viewer audience, not what I meant to say. Viewer participation is always really nice. So again, I'm just kind of gonna change the beach around. I'm gonna expand the amount of beach, but also kind of actually do the opposite of what I was doing on this beach. I'm going to try and make the greatest terrain change possible so that the mountains look more, well, mountainous instead of kind of hilly and flat. So now I'm going to just quickly smooth over this area because I kind of cut into it using the flat tool a little bit more than I intended. Oh well, whatever, smooth it out, you know, no biggie. So now we're going to go into custom terrain. Custom terrain is a tab right down here. You can see I clicked it. Now, I have my own terrain that I'm going to import from the world I called Rehearsal, which is basically I set up everything for this video and then made a new world for it. So I'm going to just load in those terrains. To create a custom terrain, just click on a question mark and create custom material. Now, I'm going to show you what I use. I have one that I call Beaches, and I'm going to show it to you. I have cobblestone, sand, and gravel. And basically, what you have, I'm going to explain the whole tab to you. You have your name. For me, it's Beaches. Color. You can change the color if you want. I'm just going to leave it as nothing because it seems easier to me. Now, you have three basically ways of showing what or showing how the different materials you've chosen are going to appear. Noise, which is random, blobs, which are blobs, and layers, which basically are layers of your material. I always choose noise because it's the most random. And then you choose your block ID, cobblestone, sand, and gravel for me, your data value. So if you have a specific cobblestone block that you want to use and your resource pack has metadata to support that, feel free to change that. I just want to use generic cobblestone. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say metadata, don't bother changing it. Now this is your occurrence in percentage. So basically, this is your percentage times 10. I don't know why it is shown like that in thousands rather than hundreds, like a normal percent, but the best way to calculate it is just shave off the last number. For me, it's 0, 8, and 2, and you'll end up with 23% cobblestone, 53% sand, and 23% gravel. Add that together, and you get roughly, well, you actually get 99%, but ignore that. So, yeah, alright, that's my beaches, and then for my cliffs, I have very basic cobblestone and stone. Um, Again, these percentages, because they're in the thousands, I always just estimate it. So 731 and 269. I just generally went for 700, 300, a 70-30 split because why not? And then I edit it a little bit because I don't know, I was bored. And then this is my very impressive riverbed, which is gravel, stone bricks, and stone bricks. Now, if you see, I have 2 stone bricks here, but I have the data value of 1 because stone bricks, comma, 1 is different than stone bricks. Stone bricks, comma, 1 is mossy stone bricks, which for a riverbed looks pretty good. And then the occurrence and percentage is 67, 10, and 22, basically. So those are the custom terrains I have. Now, to paint them, I'm going to use the spray brush and select the custom terrain I want. Now, if I use the custom terrain as it is right now, I'd click and it just creates beaches. Okay, so if I wanted to make beaches, okay, I'm just kind of doing that and stuff. But that doesn't end up looking very realistic. So I'm going to massively alter uh, basically my brush settings. So I'm only going to have beaches sprayed on uh, the level. Now remember, water is at level 30. We set that in our very first world creation in our first video. Go check it out if you haven't watched it. So our water is at level 30. So I want the beaches to appear at level 33, and I don't have number lock on, so that didn't change, 33 or below, which is why I have that checked. I also only want it to appear on land. I don't want the beaches to go underneath the water. So that is all enabled. So now if I go around, it is spraying the beach terrain on any land that is underneath level 34, and it's only on land. So we're just going to go around the main land again, set up those beaches. All right. Now, I don't want sand on this side of the beach, of this side of the terrain, because that is cliffs, and that wouldn't look very realistic if the bottom of the cliffs were sandy for some reason. However, over here, I'm going to enable it once again. Now you can see this swampland, if I just went wild with the brush, would end up being quite sandy, and swamplands are not sandy. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. I'm also going to shrink the brush down, and I'm going to just paint this little side. And as it gets closer to these lakes, I'm going to have it actually taper off. So I'm right-clicking to restore the normal terrain. Now I've actually screwed up because I haven't deployed our very basic generic terrain, which we set up again in the first video. So now if I do it, it's going to overwrite the beaches, which is not a big deal, but I still need to now right click with any terrain, and I should disable these modifiers. And now it is painting the terrain exactly how I wanted it when I set this video up. So that at 87, the terrain becomes stone, at 147 rock, and at 180 snow-covered rock, and then 208 deep snow. You can see the deep snow and snow right here on this via the white, the stone, and rock combo by the gray, and the grass by, obviously, the green. So now I'm going to go back to custom terrain and reapply these modifiers, and then just basically use this big ass brush because it's faster. Oh, I caught a little bit of that island there in sand and I didn't want it. So once again, all the way over around here, and then over here on this beach as well. Going to zoom in so I can get a little bit more in depth and precise. Also shrink that. Alright, there we go. And our last little bit of the beach that we want to apply is over here. Alright, lovely. Now, our second terrain is the cliffs. And once again, we run into this problem where I could manually go around and try and change the terrain, but you're going to get a bunch of overlap that wouldn't look very real. So I'm going to disable the add or below because I want the cliffs to appear at any height value anywhere. Now I'm going to choose accept on, sorry, I'm going to choose only on land because I don't want cliffs to apply to the water. And we're going to choose this last box above 60 degrees. Now what this means is the brush is going to calculate if any change between the blocks on two height levels is greater than 60 degrees, it will change both blocks to this stone mix. If it's less than, it won't apply. This will overwrite the beaches, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to apply it everywhere on this map. So I'm going to intensity 100 and max out the size, and then just left click. As you can see, it's overwritten the beaches here and also changed the side of this plateau, which is actually what we wanted. And it's also blending into these mountains, so you can see how grass sometimes reaches into the rocks now and sometimes doesn't. And it's also changing a few parts on this cliffs. Now I actually want those cliffs to be almost entirely, so I'm going to lower the degree requirement, and then there we go. Now we get a lot more stone in the cliffs. I'm also just going to, at 45 degrees, I'm going to just kind of hold down just to see if there's anywhere that should apply. See, if you hold down 45 degrees over here on the mountains, in my opinion, a little too much becomes rock, so I'm going to actually undo, 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 and undo. But I am going to apply to this area, just so that there's a little terrain interest. There's a few changes in the terrain. Excuse me. Now I'm going to go back to the Dwarven Fortress, and I'm going to put this back to 60 degrees. And then just left click, hold. Alright. So that is done. Now, riverbed terrain. Riverbed terrain, as you would assume, I'm only going to use for the riverbed. So, because I haven't marked out where the rivers are going to be, I'm not going to change anything to riverbed terrain. I am, however, going to change this plateau to grass instead of stone, because we want it to be a nice, like, fertile kind of elven kingdom after all, and elves don't live on stone traditionally. So let's see, this right here, I'm going to hold my position at this marker and then look down at the height. You can see the height in this box here. You can't right now because my cursor isn't on anything. So the lowest height right there is 128. So I want the grass brush to be applied only on land at or above 128. So now, if I just crank that up, you see stone all the way up, and then basically a layer of grass, which is exactly what I wanted. Lovely. Alright, so now we're going to be setting up biomes. Biomes, for the most part, you might be thinking in a creative map, what's the point? Well, it changes. Biomes do alter the look of water, the look of grass, the look of leaves, and if you're planning on making a map you're making into a a survival world where you're going to be having players run around and collect resources and such, biomes actually massively change what will spawn in those biomes. So for something like this mainland, I'm going to simply have plains, which is the default biome. So you can see I'm left clicking and dragging and nothing's really changing. Well, it's because it's the default biome. So now let's look at our forest biome. Alright, forest biome, I'm going to have our forest biome. Oh, that's why. Also, make sure you always turn off your modifiers. Gonna have our forest biome kind of in this little bit of basically a crater in our mainland. It's a little bit lower than the other areas, so I'm going to have that be all forest. And I'm also going to have some spots of forest basically around the mountains and in this pass. So just at the base of the mountains, going to be forest. I'm going to connect the forest here. I'm also going to have the forest as a very small brush all the way around, kind of into the swamplands. Just surrounding the mountains in general. Alright, and then we have our swamplands biome, which I'm just going to coat the entirety of the swamplands, because it's very important you actually set up proper biomes, especially in survival, as I said again, because swamplands is one of the very few places where slimes spawn. And that's kind of an integral part of the survival experience, being able to know where slimes spawn and then getting their slime blocks. Alright, so now looking at other biomes, we have jungle, we have birch forest, roofed forest, extreme hills. Extreme hills, I'm going to spray on this entire mountain. Sorry guys, I keep coughing, I'm rather sick. So, alright, that is sprayed on and lovely. Now we also have a mushroom island, which I'm not going to use. Taiga, which I have no idea. Mega taiga. Mega spruce taiga. Desert. Savanna. Mesa. Ocean. Which, honestly, isn't that important to spray. We have our river, beach, which I am going to use, actually. If I can find this part. I'm only going to use beach on... Actually, I'm going to set this up. So only on land, no, only on terrain, custom, beaches. That way I don't have to worry about kind of making anything other than beaches. Well, a beach terrain. So there we go. That's all sprayed and done. And then we have our stone beach, frozen river, frozen cold beach, ice plains, ice mountains, cold taiga, nether, and then add a custom biome, which I'm not going to be doing. So there's a few areas that we haven't sprayed. We haven't sprayed our Elven. We haven't sprayed our mountain range right here either. So I'm going to choose the covered forest, the roofed forest, for the Elven area. Also turn off the modifier only on beaches. And just make that. Wonderful. And I'm also going to choose plains for this grass down here, which is default, so there's no need for me to do that. And then I need to choose icy mountains for these biomes. Well, these mountains, I should say. So it's very rough, you know, it's not incredibly important, but you want it to be as realistic as possible when you're playing this, if you're going to play it in survival. If you're going to only create stuff in creative, you may want to set out a lot more basic biomes, because it does, as I said, change the way leaves and grass look. But for the most part, it really doesn't change that much. Alright, so that's our biome setup. Now, we are going to, once again, check the time to see how much I've been recording, and it's been another 20-minute episode, guys. So, I'm going to call it there. That is your basic intro to biomes, and how to create custom terrain. And yeah, if I helped you out, if you guys understood something better now that I've walked you through it, leave a comment saying so, just like, hey man, thanks. And I really wanna reiterate, leave a comment saying your name or suggesting a name, because I'm going to be creating this map from the ground up and building on it. So if you want a town named after you, or a fishing village named after you, or if, I don't know, you really like giraffes and you want a statue of one named after you, let me know. Put it in the comments. I'll do my best to work it in. Alright, thank you guys for joining me. Leave a like if you feel like it. If you don't, I completely understand. See ya.